Well, looky there, Kitty. We got company. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. I'm Tobias. This here's Kitty. She's the production staff. We're going to get the show on the road in just a second.
I really haven't been picking up a lot of Rough Riders. I guess recently I've shown quite a few, but for the most part this year I really haven't bought that many Rough Riders. But I saw this knife over on Knife Detector's channel, and it's like, wow, that one looks pretty cool. I gotta have it. And that is the Rough Ryder Black and Blue series. See here, it says genuine blue bone with black liners. This is the RR2113. And, well, if you've been following Knife Detector, you probably already know what's in the box, because he's been having a kick with sunfish knives, or elephant toenails. And that's what this is, the black and blue elephant toe. They just called it elephant toe. And here you have it. These are big knives, I'll tell you right now, really big knives. Right there you have it. Just over 4 inches long, about 4 1/8 inches long overall. Well, this is a little bit different than your typical sunfish. The name elephant toe or elephant toenail and sunfish are pretty much interchangeable these days. But in any case, here's your typical sunfish from Rough Ryder. These are the older ones. And you see that one. Notice the difference in that blade, how that blade comes up higher. That's because this one has big old fat spear blade, but this one has a modified sheepfoot blade. Notice it still has a bit of a belly going on with that blade, a little bit less curve than the spear blade, but it does have some curve going on, so it's not a true sheepfoot, because a true sheepfoot would be straight across here. So it's got a bit of a belly going on, so it's more like a modified sheepfoot. But man, is that a nice knife, or a nice blade. And got the half stop going on now. The older sunfish knives by Rough Ryder did not have a half stop. This one, I definitely need to clean it. I haven't cleaned it yet, but it works really well, I think, especially straight out of the box. Notice there's two blades on it, and they're both working off of separate springs. You saw the big one here, the sheepfoot blade, and that really looks like it's going to be really good for cutting rope and such. Sheepfoot blades have a special use for cutting and cutting wood even, and everything else. They're just really good cutters. And the other blade over here is also a really good cutting blade that is very popular right now. And that is a a Wharncliffe blade. Notice how that drops from the beginning. A nice Wharncliffe blade. And this one does have a straight edge going all the way along. Now, typically, the secondary blade on a sunfish or elephant toenail would be a pin blade. Though that's pretty big for a pin blade. You see the links there. But that's the difference in this knife. And tell you what, if they would have put this knife out with just the sheepfoot blade or just the Wharncliffe blade, I would have bought it anyway, if the other blade would have been your typical sunfish knife blade. Just simply because of the blade choices. Things I wasn't crazy about with the handle were the big R, obviously. It's not nearly as annoying on this one. I guess maybe I'm getting used to it. But the R is not as bad on this, simply because of the size of the bolster and the amount of real estate it takes up. And if you notice, they put the R on both sides. So you have it on one side, always facing to the right, or the side that the blade opens up. So notice the R is under the Wharncliffe blade, and it is under the sheepfoot blade. So that's kind of cool. I don't mind it too much. But what I really like on this handle is the choice of bone for the covers. And that blue is just absolutely beautiful. It's like that Caribbean blue, or your French racing blue, something like that. And you got a nice saw cut going through it. But the saw cut, I don't know, just the way it is there, it just reminds me of waves in the ocean. You got the little Rough Ryder bomber shield there. I wish they would have left that out. They didn't need to put that in there. That because quite frankly, I think the backside looks better than the front side because of the uninterrupted lines in the bone. I should do that like this so you can see it better without the reflection. You see that? Those lines? Just looks beautiful. I really like the bone on there. Bone is handled or it's held in with 4 pins plus the pivot spring for the back spring there. You notice brass liners, and also if you notice, you've got the black liners or whatever, spacers or whatever underneath the bone. I don't recall for sure, but I think that is a black G10 spacer resting underneath the blue bone. Don't know why they did that. I guess it's a nice little touch. I really wouldn't have mattered to me. The bone was lives all on its own. Fit and finish of the knife is your typical Rough Ryder style. I mean, it's really nice fit and really nice finish. But the selling point for me really was the blades. There are other knives in the black and blue series. I probably will not pick up any of those because they're just your standard knife, your standard canoe and everything else. I got plenty enough Rough Ryder canoes, so I don't need another one. But man, when I saw these blades on this this elephant toe, that's what they called it, just the Rough Ryder black and blue elephant toe, I said, yeah, that one is cool. I definitely want to grab that one. So I went out and did it. And I can blame Knife Detector for it. He's been on a sunfish kick, and it looks like he's turning me into another sunfish fan again too. I do like the pattern. I don't carry it much. They are very much a pocket full. But when you do something like this, yeah, I had to get it. I think these blades are going to be really, really useful. Well, let's see here. Blades on sunfish are often very tight. You see what you got there? And that's really the big difference on there. The length of the blade is about the same, but because they went with the sheepfoot style blade, you've got a much longer cutting edge that, or usable cutting edge. See what you got there? About, well, let's say 2.5 inches of nice belly to work with there. On this one, you still got about the same amount of belly, if not a little more. Well, about the same amount. But because of the curve there, you're going to either be cutting there or you're going to be cutting back there. You see, you got two different edges there. This one, you could actually, just cut straight through, pushing down. You could on that one too, but this one I think will be much better for chopping through. This one is much better for slicing through, because you're going to be slicing. But you can definitely, because you still got a bit of curve there, you could definitely slice with this one too. And obviously the fact that you've got a Wharncliffe blade over here, anyone who likes to do some cutting and everything with wood and everything else, that's going to work really well for like whittling or anything else. I will say that because of the bump in the blade there, it's going to be a little trickier to hold this knife when you're using that, because you've got a big bump there in your hand, and you're obviously going to want to use that blade with the blade closed. You're not going to do it with it open. So you're going to have to get a little bit used to holding this knife when you're using that little Wharncliffe blade. You don't have that issue on the opposite end. Matter of fact, the Wharncliffe blade drops down in there. You get a little bit of hot spot on your hand there, a little bit, but not too bad. But you can definitely push and cut in there pretty well because you got more bump on the blade. The standard sunfish, these feel better in the hand when you're using the blades individually. So that's the plus side of it. Yeah, either way, these blades feel better in the hand. than the black and blue series, but I don't know, it was just nice to see a different style blade in the knife, and that's really why I picked it up. Will I be using it a lot? Probably not. I don't use my other sunfish that much either, but just to have a different style of sunfish in the collection was a nice touch. So that's why I ended up picking up the Rough Ryder black and blue elephant toe. It's just a really cool knife, and not something you see every day in the sunfish family. So there you have it. Do I recommend it? If you're a sunfish fan, yeah, you should definitely pick it up. If you're not a sunfish fan, I would suggest grabbing a standard sunfish first before going out and grabbing this one, because this will give you a better feel for the actual pattern than the black and blue. But once you figure out if you're like this pattern and want to carry it, then you might want to go ahead and grab the black and blue to see, see how it compares to the other one, and see if it's more useful than just your standard sunfish. I think both of these blades will be more useful for certain tasks, but for overall general purposes, I would definitely stick with just your standard sunfish. There's a reason why this pattern lasted for as long as it did, and why it was resurrected. But also, there's a reason why Rough Ryder came out with a new take on it, and that new take is pretty cool. Yeah, I was rambling a bit, but hopefully you get a good feel for the black and blue elephant toe, and stick around for some slides and I can ramble a little more. We both want to thank you very much for dropping by and spending a little time with us. We really do appreciate it. And don't forget, if you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Kitty loves to hear that bell.